Hi there, welcome to today's vlog. Matthew Calarossi asked me a question. He said he's watching from Connecticut on my live stream I did a few days ago, can't remember. Everything seems to merge into one right now, doesn't it? He says, since you moved into a new house, could you possibly make a video on how to set up a practice space for maximum effectiveness? I'm trying to improve my bedroom practice area. I would appreciate some tips. Appreciate some tips. Well, Matthew. So very quickly, just to apologise for the lack of vlogs at the moment. Amy and Charlie are with me full time at the moment. Their mum has suspected coronavirus. She's okay, she's recovering at home, but obviously they've got to stay with me while she first of all recovers and also is in isolation. They went to see her yesterday, rather sort of masked up and everything else like that, keeping a very safe distance and barrier. But they're okay, but obviously they are needing my time and my attention because they're not at school at the moment. Sadly, their school hasn't really set them any work, so I'm constantly trying to have to do schoolwork. We did PE with Joe this morning. Ready? Go! Now bend your arms, Charlie. That was great fun. I've got some teaching to do today. To sort of cap it all off, on Monday I came downstairs to my iMac with a complete hard drive failure, which meant I then had to rebuild it, thankfully with the help of Apple. Don't ask me exactly what happened. It just basically has to go to disk utility, internet recovery, it lost its boot partition. Anyway, all recovered. It took 28 hours to restore all the files. Thankfully, the 16,000 photos I had in Lightroom were saved, which is really, really good. We're going to talk about Matthew's question in a minute. I'm going to take you around what I'm looking for in the studio, kind of the compromises I've made since moving here, because when I had the big studio in the previous, well, 2 homes ago now, that was obviously dedicated studio space, and I've changed every time as I go along. And what I have now is basically, I've just come to the realization that especially having a home studio space, it's got to be a home first, and then the kind of studio has to fit in with it. And the advantage of a way of this lockdown is that all my teaching now is on Skype, which means that I have the opportunity to kind of work with this room, develop it, and see how I'm going to turn it into a teaching space, if I'm going to turn it into a teaching space at all. Clear that space there. What's this? Obviously it's just a joke, but a nice little April Fool. I was going to do the whole thing about how it improves the production of the Lego show, but I've got to say the biggest difference I've noticed is getting the reeds back in the Rejuvenate. They're just singing back out again, so definitely going back to the Rejuvenate.
They make you do it. how they want to do it instead of how you want to do it, so I show them.
So it's not really creative.
It's basically just they want you to, and if it's not as perfect as how the person who you're copying it off do it, then you get told to do it.
So we're heading out for our Boris Johnson mandated hour of, well, not hour, but we're allowed to go out for exercise. So we're heading out. We've basically, 10 days of living here, exhausted all the walking options nearby, so we just keep having to repeat them in a cycle. We're glad we can get out. We appreciate people in Italy and Spain can't, but hold that for me. It's recording. Just want to get a shot of the screen.
Hi. Do you have a home? Where's your home?
Right.
Are you going to go back to your family?
In from the walk, a really good nice little walk there with the kids. Weird to see all the benches taped up, but going on from there, back to the original point about practice area. What should you look for in your practice setup and things like that? What I have in my practice area is basically starting off with my computer and my speakers. Why do I have those? Because obviously with my computer I have the vast access to all my music library, and of course all the Apple Music library that's there, YouTube, everything else like that. I tend to use Transcribe on the computer for when I'm trying to learn transcriptions, or when I'm teaching, when I'm doing video lessons for Cambridge saxophone, anything along those lines. This thing is just invaluable. In fact, without this I'd be absolutely snookered. But I need the computer, but the computer is a massive distraction. As you may already be in that situation now watching this YouTube video, and the fact that you went on to maybe do some practice or maybe look for something or look for instruction, and you got waylaid, you went down the rabbit hole of YouTube and all the different videos that you could be watching, and you start procrastinating. And that is a problem with having the computer in the practice room. It is easy to get distracted and to lose focus and wander off somewhere. There are times, and I've mentioned it in these vlogs, when I've gone outside and practiced, there are times when I go into a room with nothing else but my metronome and my saxophone. The problem is these days, I can't remember the last time I actually had just a physical metronome, because I always tend to use my mobile phone, and of course you've got your mobile phone, and that's distracting as well. So you've got to have that self-discipline there, and it's difficult. I'm not going to lie to you, it's difficult not to get distracted by having devices, and if a call comes in or a text comes in, you think, oh, just text this person, or just check WhatsApp, or just check this, that and the other, and suddenly you got off distracted. So it's important to have that. I have a mic for recording myself, and recording yourself practicing is really important. Don't do it all the time, but I strongly urge you to record yourself at least once a month playing something, so that then over the 6-month period you've got an idea of how much you've improved month on month, and then you can go back in a year's time and listen to yourself. One of the things I'm constantly trying to emphasize, particularly to my adult students, is how important it is to judge yourself in terms of years, not in terms of weeks. Certainly not in terms of days. It takes years to get it right, and I actually use the example of one of my students who 4 or 5 years ago, when we were doing the Silent Night project for the Christmas project for Cambridge Saxophone, he could just about play the melody. This year, in the one just gone, we were playing a different tune, but he was able to play the solo part, really difficult passage. And I was saying that's what 5-6 years worth of work takes, and that's the kind of time frame you need to give yourself. So recording is really important. I have my books are nearby. I now split my bookshelves. In the previous studio I had the bookshelves next to each other. Now with the piano here, which I'll come to in a second, I have the bookshelves split, so I tend to have my workbook shelves on here. Be careful though of, again, not going down that kind of passage of pulling a book out and just playing through a book. Playing through a book is better than doing no practice at all, but ideally you should be spending at least half your practice not reading anything, okay? Long tones, okay, you can maybe get my long tone ebooks just below, but certainly your scales, you might need the initial idea, that's coming soon, but you know, then kind of working through most of it, you want to be doing it when kind of metronome and horn, just trying to get those stuff down. It's not, you know, it's really, I have to say this a lot to people, it's not always the most interesting thing, but think of that Dave Liebman thing where he says, don't get emotionally involved with things like scales, just do them. You know, just don't like or dislike them, just do them. By the way, if you haven't already, hit the like button on this video. And then finally, what I like to have in the practice room, and I think all saxophone players, if you can, need to have a piano or a keyboard in the practice room with you, so you can work through things like voicings, you can go through, you can understand harmony. I mentioned it in this vlog here when I first got this piano back in the old place, how important it is to be able to practice the saxophone with the piano and how much I enjoy doing that, playing chords, practicing runs over it. Okay, you can only really do it with a real piano in that sense, but definitely worth doing. So that's what I think about with a practice regime. Obviously, I've also got the saxophones on their stands there. But I would say making sure you've got somewhere that you can listen to music and play, you know, transcribe, play-alongs of course as well, but definitely transcribing is the most important element of that. Somewhere you've got reference points for books, a music stand of course is important as well, and having a piano or a keyboard is something you should be thinking about. Ideally, in the way I've got it here, I can reach all three things quite easily. The piano, the computer, the bookshelves, the saxophones. I can get round and do those things within easy reach of each other, which is quite an important thing. Thank you very much for watching today's vlog. I hope that proves useful. Please do keep sending your questions in. Last night we tried a Patreon Q&A. It kind of worked, it wasn't the best, so if you are one of my Patreons, I can never get that right, what this kind of singular would be for that. But if you are, we are going to do a Zoom call. If you're not on Patreon already, I keep plugging it, it's $2 a month. That's it. In this moment in time, $2 a month is nothing. You can't go to Starbucks and spend that. You can't go to Wendy's or KFC or Burger King, wherever. You can't go and spend that $2, £2. In fact, it's less than $2, of course, of £2. You can't go and spend that a month. I'm asking you to send it this way. What I'm offering you is every day a new playlist. We're going to have this Zoom call next week where we can go Q&A. I can listen to some of you playing. We can go through everything. If you want to spend a little bit more on the Patreon, there's saxophone lessons on there as well, a kind of slightly cheaper alternative to Cambridge Saxophone, which is where everything is. But please, if you can, support it. Thank you very much for watching today. Check out my last vlog here. This is what I was up to this time last year, which seems an awful long time ago now, doesn't it? Don't forget to hit subscribe. See you soon. Bye-bye.